Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. Welcome to another of my TV reviews, and as you can see, I am reviewing the very first series of Doctor Who. Well, when I say the very first, I mean the show as it returned in 2005. Now, I want to start off by talking a little bit about my history with Doctor Who. Like many in the UK, it is a show that I grew up on. My main periods in regards to Doctor Who's that I remember growing up was Tom Baker and Peter Davison. And then after that, I started losing interest, I suppose, in the Colin Baker years and Sylvester McCoy years. And then, when it was, we all knew it was going to be rebooted, if you like, and brought back to our screens. I certainly felt, and probably many others felt, a feeling of dread. And this was the BBC, you know. They don't have a great rep then, and they still don't really have a great rep now for delivering on quality. But very, very excited to see it coming back, especially knowing that it was getting, we were getting Christopher Eccleston as the new Doctor, which definitely interested me. And then they announced Billie Piper as the companion, and that interested me a little bit less, because in the UK at the time she was mainly known for being a pop star, Billie Piper, so that didn't really interest me, so I was a bit put off by that. And then we got the very first series in 2005, and I was glued to it, the whole series. I really, really enjoyed the first series. I think it had some ups and downs. And I'm going to talk about each episode briefly, and then I'll give you an overall score for the season at the end. And I'm going to include the Christmas invasion as well here right at the end, because to me it feels like it's part of the first season. So we'll move on to the very first episode, Rose. Now, I remember watching this for the first time and feeling a little bit underwhelmed, I'll be honest. It was cool to see Doctor Who back, and I thought Christopher Eccleston was, brilliant in this episode. He was a great Doctor. He was a really eccentric, really over the top, and this was a great introduction to his new companion Rose. And they have to go on this adventure in London, trying to figure out why these mannequins are coming to life and things like that. There was a couple of dodgy effects here and there in this first episode, but I thought overall it was a fairly strong introduction to the Doctor and his new companion. Now, the second episode was called The End of the World. And what I really enjoyed about this episode was it got to show off really some quite impressive special effects. And by that I mean like the effects of some of the aliens that we see in this episode. We see the face of Bo for the first time, and a couple of other species, and you could see actually, they're taking this seriously here. There's some pretty good effects going on. And this episode mainly focused around the Doctor taking Rose right to the end of the Earth's time, where it's going to naturally explode, and there's some kind of plot by someone to destroy this space station and things like that, and they've got to solve it together. The story's a bit so-so, but there are aspects of it that I did enjoy. The third episode was called The Unquiet Dead, and I think the main highlights here were Simon Callow as Charles Dickens, and we got some really, really fun and cool interactions between the Doctor and Charles Dickens. The story again here I thought was a little bit weak, and essentially it focused on it was set at Christmas, so in some ways this was like, it could have been a Christmas special maybe. And we get these dead bodies that are simply rising from the grave, and it's up to Doctor and Rose, and of course Charles Dickens to try and figure out what is going on. So that it was an okay episode. And now we get to that first two-parter in the first series. The first one is Aliens of London, where the Doctor takes Rose back home for her to see her mum and things like that, and she finds out she's been gone a year. And then these aliens land in Earth, but it's kind of a smoke screen for these Slovene that are trying to take over Parliament from the inside, and they've got the zippers on the head that they open and they come out. The episode ends with a little bit of a cliffhanger, as these two-parters generally always do. and we meet Harriet Jones for the first time as well in this episode. Now, the second part was called World War III, and the Doctor, Harriet Jones and Rose Tyler are in Downing Street, basically, trying to fight the Slovene, and he has to get help from the outside from Mickey to try and get some more intelligence from the outside. But it's the Doctor, and he, generally speaking, always finds a way. There's a couple of moments in here where they all feel a little bit of threat. If I'm honest, I thought, as a two-parter, there were aspects of these two episodes that were good and interesting, but I don't think it is certainly the strongest two-parter I have ever seen. But it was watchable, certainly. Now, I think one of the strongest contenders for episode of the first series is this one, Dalek. The Doctor and Rose end up in like an underground bunker where this huge billionaire type guy is storing all this alien tech and things like this, and he has a Dalek stored there as well. The Doctor thought the Daleks were all gone, and then he basically figures out that this Dalek survived the Time War, and it manages to re-energize itself and goes on a little bit of a rampage. Some great performances here, especially by Christopher Eccleston in this episode. The long game is notable because Simon Pegg makes an appearance in this episode, and this is where they go to Station 5, I think it's called, and there's all these news channels everywhere, and we get that young lad who is, you may recognise, certainly UK viewers will recognise him from Coronation Street. He used to be in Coronation Street. I thought this was one of the weakest episodes of this season. I thought the creature that was like living up in the ceiling with pretty good effects on that, but I thought overall the episode was fairly poor. And I think personally one of my least favourites of this series. Father's Day next, and the Doctor essentially offers to take Rose to see the death of her father, because her father died when she was just a little baby, basically. And Rose does something foolish and tries to save his life, and that sets up like this time paradox type thing, and the Doctor then has got his hands full trying to fix what Rose has done, and trying to ensure that the time rift is healed and things like that, and put the sequence of events back to how they should be, with Rose's father dying as he should have done from the beginning. We get another two-parter next. The Empty Child is the first one. And again, for this two-parter, I wasn't overly impressed with this one. I think it does have a good reputation within like the Doctor Who fanverse, or whatever you want to call it. I wasn't overly impressed. I think, yes, I mean the "Are you my mummy" thing, with these gas masks. I thought that was very inventive. A child, "Are you my mummy?" and then this real threat of these people in gas masks able to mutate and turn you into one of them was quite very well written, but it just didn't really do it for me, this two-parter. I think obviously the most notable thing as well about this episode was our introduction for the first time to meet Captain Jack, who obviously has maintained his presence throughout the Doctor Who episodes since. He's still appearing now. He's been in the Jodie Whittaker ones. Not that I have seen any of them, because I haven't watched any of the Jodie Whittaker ones. Great character, Captain Jack. I mean, it was a fairly lukewarm introduction into the Doctor Who universe, and he does come into his own later in this series, but this episode 10, The Doctor Dances, gave us a natural conclusion to this two-parter, but again, I wasn't a big fan of this two-parter as well. Boomtown, I thought, was a very interesting episode. It was there's this Slovene left over from the two-parter earlier in the series, and the Doctor has to basically transport her back home, but if he does that, she will be executed because she has like an execution order against her name. So there's some interesting moral questions raised in this one, and then we get a little bit of a dilemma. Sorry about that, my cat was just deciding to get involved. So yeah, some interesting moral dilemmas in this one, and we get a bit of excitement later in the episode too. And then we get to the final two-parter. Now this two-parter I can really get on board with. The first one was Bad Wolf, and it's great concept where they the Doctor, Jack and Rose get transported to well, it's back to Station 5 really, although it's not called that anymore. And they get chucked into these game shows that were very, very popular in the UK at the time. Funnily enough, the ones they were in, like Big Brother, The Weakest Link, and the other one, the fashion one, none of them are actually going anymore in the UK TV, which is interesting. But yeah, it's basically a ploy and a return by the Daleks, which leads us to the final episode of this series, The Parting of the Ways. The Daleks have revealed themselves, and it's up to the Doctor to try and put a stop to their plan where they want to enslave the world, basically. Great episode. I thought some fantastic monologues here by Christopher Eccleston. Really, really on form in this episode. I thought actually Billie Piper came into her own as well in this episode and gave a great performance. And obviously it leads to the end of this episode, where it leads to the regeneration process, where we say goodbye to Christopher Eccleston and hello to the new Dr. David Tennant. And I thought Christopher Eccleston's run as the Doctor was far too brief. He did a great job, but it then led us on to the Christmas invasion, the Christmas special in 2005, where he has regenerated now into the Doctor, but the regeneration process has taken it out of the Doctor. He needs to rest, he needs to continue to regenerate, and it's up to Rose Tyler and Harriet Jones, who is now Prime Minister, to try and repel this new alien invasion that have come to try and enslave the human race. Late in the episode, the Doctor wakes up, and we get to see David Tennant's brilliant performance as the Doctor, and you knew straight away it was in good hands, the show, when David Tennant showed up late in the episode and did his thing. You felt comfortable, you could breathe a sigh of relief. You thought, yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy this Doctor. So overall, season 1, I'm used to saying series 1 in the UK it's called, I thought was a very, very strong opening season. Some great episodes, great Doctor in Christopher Eccleston, and Billie Piper as well impressed me. So I'm going to give it an overall 9 out of 10. So I'm going to get started on season 2, series 2, done it again there, you can see, and I will get up that review hopefully in the coming weeks, but I hope you enjoy these Doctor Who reviews. Let me know in the comments what you think, and of course I will be back with more reviews and content on Screen Stars very, very soon.